been great this postseason. In 2 games, he has a 70% completion percentage, 470 passing yards, and 4 touchdowns with 0 interceptions. Remember, the Seahawks had that first-round bye, and Darnold has been playing through an oblique injury. Here is Darnold last night at Media Days in San Francisco.
The only thing that matters is, if you believe in yourself, that's really it. I always believed in myself. I knew that I could do this at a high level, and that was really it. That's what kept me going, and I knew at some point an opportunity would arise. But even if it didn't, I knew that I did everything that I could to become a better player year in and year out. I would have loved to get drafted to New York and have that be my home for 20 years, but it just didn't work out that way. Again, like Seattle, just from the get, right when I got here, it felt like home.
All right. He rarely talks about the journey, but I guess that kind of tied a bow on it a little bit. Would Darnold be considered an elite quarterback with a Super Bowl win on his resume, J-Man?
This is the question we kind of get into every single year, and I'm going to say no. And I don't think that's to slight Sam Darnold in any way. I think he's a very good quarterback. I don't think just winning in that football game gives you that elite title. We just went through this with Jalen Hurts, where you go back a few years ago where he played in the Super Bowl. They didn't win the game, but he was unbelievable and could have been the Super Bowl MVP. The topic and the conversation after that was, I still don't think he's a top 5, top 10 quarterback. The same thing a year ago where he won the Super Bowl and he performed in it. We asked those same questions. I think for Sam Darnold, it takes more than just that one game. It takes multiple seasons worth to be an elite quarterback. Think of the guys that we talk about and we put in that elite category. We're talking about a guy like Josh Allen, who's a regular season MVP. Lamar Jackson, a 2-time MVP. We're talking about Patrick Mahomes, who has multiple MVPs and Super Bowl MVP. So I don't think for Sam Darnold, just to win this football game, even if he does perform well, it doesn't put him in that elite category. And we're not going to start talking about him as a top 5 quarterback. But I don't say that to say, all right, that means Sam Darnold sucks. No, he's a really good quarterback. His journey is incredible, what he's been able to prove and do, but that doesn't mean he's going to be at that elite level.
I say?
We might not put him there. It doesn't mean that we'd be right, and it doesn't mean that we'd be justified in not at least discussing it. The man over the last 2 NFL regular seasons is 28-6. He's got the best record in football.
Yeah.
He's thrown 60 touchdown passes. He's had 9 game-winning drives, third only behind Bo Nix and Bryce Young. And he's third in passing yards behind Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff. I mean, damn, if he goes out there and wins a Super Bowl championship, and with a 28-6 record over the last 2 years, that's the best in the National Football League. Well, when do we start talking about him? Because he's done something that Josh Allen hasn't done. He's done something that Lamar Jackson hasn't done. So how is it that we wouldn't be talking about him? I understand that if he goes out there and wets the bed and looks like he's looked when he was a New York Jet, or looked like he looked the last 2 games last season in the regular season finale against Detroit and then the playoff game against the Rams when they sacked him 9 times and held him to 9 points, I get that part. But considering how he's performed over the last 2 regular seasons, combined with how he's looked against his nemesis, the Los Angeles Rams, just last week, like 9 days ago, with 346 passing yards and 3 touchdowns in an NFC championship game, to then turn around and to go win the Super Bowl championship. By the way, you beat Sean McVay in the regular season and the playoffs to win the division. You beat Kyle Shanahan in the playoffs and in the regular season, and then you trollop them in the playoffs 41-6. You go and you beat the Rams again in the NFC championship game. You turn around and you perform at a high level and win a Super Bowl championship. We got to talk about you differently. So we might not want to put you up there with those guys that did it consistently over the course of their regular season careers. But over the last 2 seasons, how he has looked, if you culminate this with a Super Bowl championship, we certainly have to talk about him differently. There is no doubt about that.
Yeah, see, I completely agree with S.A. on this. I think it does put him in that conversation if he wins the Super Bowl. And I'll tell you why. This, to me, and I'm not comparing the 2 quarterbacks, so hear me in the right way, but like the Eli Manning conversation, right? Like, Eli Manning didn't go to a bunch of Pro Bowls. He never won MVPs, right? But he wins 2 Super Bowls and has these kind of victories and has like Sam Darnold is a large part of the reason why they've been successful in this playoff run. And that's a big deal. Like, he didn't just coast or get carried against the Rams. He basically outplayed, Matt Stafford in a fantastic offense. Yet, it's an electric game. Both offenses are moving the ball up and down the field. And everybody's like, oh, the defense. Well, the defense gave up a lot of yards and points against the Rams, and he still found a way to win. I think that's the conversation you have to have with Sam Darnold, is that he has, shaken off the comments of you can't win the big game, right? Because they come down from 16 and beat the Rams at home to get home field advantage. They end up beating the 49ers, like a drum there in the playoffs. He's taking the steps, right, to get you in that elite conversation. And here's the conversation, in my opinion. There are certain things that when quarterbacks do them, it sheds different light to me, right? Like the way Eli played in those Super Bowls, it put him in a different conversation. This is the same opportunity for Sam Darnold. He goes up and lights it up, throws to 350, 3 tuds, no picks. You can't be like, oh, man, running game and a good defense. You're going to be like, holy mackerel, like this kid played and carried his team to a Super Bowl. That makes you elite. Like, what else can you do? Like, you can't do anymore.
I guess my question would be, like, what's the definition of elite? Like, if we're going to say elite is you're the top 3 at your position in the NFL or the top 5, do you feel that way? Because you also got to remember Sam Darnold led the NFL in turnovers this year. And that's not to knock him, but it's at the same time. If we're going to say elite, like, it has to be a category in which the people in that elite category, there is no one else that is doing or have done the things that they have done. So as I look at Sam Darnold, I think he's a very good quarterback, but that doesn't mean just because he won the Super Bowl that we have to put him in that elite category. I think that should be reserved for a select few. As you talk about Eli Manning, during his playing days, I don't think people looked at him as a quarterback that was a top 3 quarterback in the NFL when you had the Brees, the Brady, the Rodgers, and some of those guys that were playing at that level.
So I feel like I don't know if it's necessarily top 10, but I feel like there's tiers, right, with quarterbacks. Like there's a top tier, a medium tier, and a bottom tier. If he wins the Super Bowl, would he be considered a top tier, maybe is the better way to phrase it. Go ahead, S.A.
Okay, I think you got to look at him that way. But let me ask you this, J-Mac. With these 2 playoff victories, he's turned into the third highest, he turned in third highest passer rating at 122.4 in a single postseason heading into the Super Bowl, only behind Matt Ryan in 2016 and Patrick Mahomes in 2019. How about that? Does that stat matter along with the 28-6 record? Along with the 28-6 record over the last 2 years, along with back-to-back, 14-win regular seasons. I mean, does that matter? I'm just asking.
As most people watching it, like passer rating, like I don't even know how the hell they get to those numbers when they try to figure it out.
That's fair. That's fair. But that's why I piggybacked it. That's why I piggybacked it with the 14 wins.
No question.
That's why I piggybacked it with the 14 wins. Right, and I piggybacked it with his performance against the Los Angeles Rams because he was really 1-3 against Los Angeles.
Right. Yes.
1-3 against Los Angeles.
Yes.
So that was his kryptonite.
He has been extremely impressive, and I don't want to take credit away from him. But when you're saying elite, and Shay just said it, there's tiers. So obviously we're going to put Patrick Mahomes in that tier. You're going to probably put Lamar Jackson in that tier. You're going to put Josh Allen. Are you comfortable saying, yes, after Sam Darnold wins this Super Bowl, I am very comfortable with him being in the same exact tier as Patrick Mahomes?
Here's my answer. You're absolutely right. I'm not comfortable with that. Here's what I am comfortable with. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, what the hell are you going to do?
Okay.
What you going to do? Because we've been talking about you like you here, but that brother did it. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And he didn't do it where you got to remember, Eli Manning, no disrespect to Eli Manning, because we all know he's got Hall of Fame consideration, but he's got a career 500 record, and there's a lot of people that don't believe that he's a Hall of Famer. But one of the reasons you look at it with trepidation is because it was a subpar regular season, and then you made a playoff run.
Yeah.
That's not Sam Darnold. These have been elite regular season performances.
Agreed.
Elite regular season records. And then to piggyback off of that and to add playoff excellence with it, that kind of changes things a little bit. So he's not, you're right, we can't put him up there. But you know what? If you can't elevate him, you might have to lower some other people who've never done it.
Throw Joe Burrow.
And not only that, we also got to think about Jalen Hurts. We got to think about Jalen Hurts, too. Look at how we were talking about him last year when he won the Super Bowl. Look at how they were talking about him this year. So, again, you got a point. You got a point.
If he wins the Super Bowl, too, it's also something Joe Burrow has never done. So, I mean, there's all these different categories that we could debate. All right.
Well, at least he got there.
It's true. He did get there.